another friend of mine who lives in Puerto Rico. And I'm just curious, how many of you know what ESOPs are? Put them up if you do. Okay. Yeah, about half of you. Well, that's what we're going to talk about for a couple of minutes. I think it's one of the neatest things ever. So please welcome my dear friend, Rich Harmon. All right. So, just an FYI, Rich's wife is Sandra Harmon, one of our group leaders. Where's Sandra? Yep, and Sandra is Cool Chicks. So last year we had a great excursion. I think this year they're doing a mini, but and next year we'll do it on a much bigger scale. But yeah, the Cool Chicks are really awesome.
Yeah, I was trying to get Daven to give me half my time tomorrow. He goes, "You're only on for 2 minutes."
10 minutes, yeah. So it's a quickie, but we love you, Sandra. So. Rich and Sandra are just the dearest friends. I love you guys. You're so awesome. And what's cool is we've been able to do a little bit of work together recently, which is fun.
Yeah, Daven had a buddy. He goes, "Hey, I've got a buddy. He's selling his company to an ESOP." I said, "Well, you should, employee stock ownership plan." I said, "You should let us take a look." And we were able to get in and take a look. It was a big transaction. Literally, we're selling 40% of the company for $100 million. And he was leaving so much money on the table, he just switched advisors to us, and that was a thank you, Gavin, because such a big deal.
Yeah, it was awesome. So, so can you explain to everybody real quick what an ESOP is?
So, it started in '74 with IRAs, 401ks, and ESOPs. They were all created as part of the Employee Retirement Income Services Act of '74, and they evolved over time. So what you could do is if you sell 30% or more of your company to a trust for your employees, let's say $10 million, you get $10 million. You get to defer all your capital gains. You get a year to reinvest all your proceeds, stocks and bonds of U.S. operating companies, actively managed real estate. If you sell 100% to an ESOP trust, the company can become tax-free in perpetuity. And you can still have a stake in the upside. You can have up to about typically 45%, but the K1 is going to the retirement trust. You don't pay federal or state taxes, and then you get another bite of the apple as your warrants. Your right to buy back 45% of the business just rockets.
I love this model for so many reasons. First of all, selling your company tax-free is a heck of a great reason, right? Being able to change the lives of the people that got you to where you ended up is beautiful.
It's wild. So ESOPs came about because this guy, Louis Kelso, in the 50s, he wrote a book called The Capitalist Manifesto. He was rabidly anti-communist. There was a Communist Manifesto. And he lobbied for years. He said, look, America's a capitalist society. Wealth is concentrated. How do we inspire owners to share equity with employees? And then they were able to get this done in '74. So President Ford on Labor Day in 1974, 50 years ago, this last Labor Day, signed this act. And then they just kept expanding it. Congress, both sides of the aisles love ESOPs. Republicans love ESOPs because the owners get liquidity, they get financial diversification on a tax-enhanced basis. Most of owners have their capital concentrated in the business. Creates, the whole transaction is deductible by the company, and then the employees are sharing in that stake. So I've been doing this for 14 years now, and at the top end of the chain, I've created a couple of thousand employee millionaires. I had somebody come up to me who I hadn't seen in a few years, and he said, Richard, we did an ESOP with you guys in '17. He had an commercial insurance company in Westchester, New York. And he said, and then 5 years later, we helped advise on the sale to the company. Sometimes you do an ESOP, you don't stay there forever. And he said, when we sold, because we did the ESOP first, he goes, when we did the ESOP, I got money off the table, I got diversity, I got liquidity, I didn't have to pay capital gains taxes. And when we sold to private equity, my receptionist, who'd been with me 15 years, 57 years old, makes $80,000 a year. She got $1.7 million into her 401k. She's in tears, her husband's in tears. They didn't know how they would pay for retirement. And I've seen that story happen a lot. And even when it doesn't happen at those levels, it still typically is 3 to 4 times whatever the employee would end up at. And so, this is my passion. My job is to be an ESOP evangelist, educating owners all over the US. Almost nobody goes through that doorway. There's only about 250 a year, and there's 100,000 business sales. And everybody goes, well, why? I said, it's because all of us, including me, get paid more if I just sell you to a third party. The fees are double. And so that's my job. Go out and educate owners. And then there's another aspect too. People have to be ready to be sold, you know. People say, well, what's the sweet spot? You have to have created some equity. So we love to see companies 3 to 5 million in profits or more. Why? Because at 3 to 5 million, you're literally worth 18 to 40 million. So I can sell, you know, a portion of the business and get you a $10 million check or more. And then, of course, we do some larger ones too, like Daven's friend.
Yeah, I mean, by the time that's all said and done, it'll be about 170 million, probably.
His company's worth a quarter billion. We're selling 40% initially. We raised $90 million for that transaction. It's closing in the next 30 days.
Yeah, that's what I want to talk about, which is so cool. So how many of you have sold a company before? Okay. A bunch. Of course, it depends how you do it. You know, I sold to private equity. I feel like in a lot of ways this is like private equity. You generally, you know, sell some, take back a share, take the ride. But in this respect, you're still in control, which is huge. But I'll tell you what. But how many of you have like sold through a business broker or what have you? Any of that? Okay. So
few.
I've done that too, and to me the process, well, it didn't suck, but it wasn't great. I mean, really, it's like selling a home. You get all these looky-loos that come in, they go through your books, they learn your business. Your competitors come in, deals rarely go through. This is a whole different deal. So where do you get the money for these deals?
Yeah, typically we raise, you know, I'm part of this firm called CSG Partners, csgpartners.com. We raise between $600 million and $1 billion to finance these each year. Our claim to fame is we raise all that money with no personal guarantees, primarily from money center banks, you know, Fifth Third, Wintrust. There's a bunch of banks that love lending to companies because they know the day after you do an ESOP, you've gotten all these tax benefits, so you've got much more cash flow to service debt. So that's our claim to fame. We raise close to $1 billion each year to do these transactions. We've done literally 25 billion of them. Smallest transactions might be, you know, 8, 10 million, and typical transactions about 30 million.
Yeah. So really, the way these work is they package it up, they take it to their banking partners. They say, "Here's what we've got. Who has an interest?" They get offers. Generally, there's a few, and they get them to compete against each other.
Yeah, what we do is initially we do an analysis. So we look at your financial history, your tax returns, some projections, your employee census, and we lay out what it means for you, the road ahead. Don't do anything. Here's what you're going to harvest after tax over the next 5, 10 years. Here's what it looks like with the leveraged, optimized ESOP. There's 400 flavors. We'll dial it down to what makes the most sense, and then you'll say, oh, well, that looks great. We'll tell you how much we think the company's worth, how much capital we can raise. And you say, well, let's go forward. Then we write a financial memorandum. It's the same document we would write if we were selling you to a third party or private equity. And it's a 40, 60-page document. It tells the whole history of the company. It tells your story, talks about the future, the competitive landscape. And then we take that to market, and we'll circulate it to 10 to 30 financial institutions. In your case, with his client, we were raising more money. And by the fall, we'd raised, October, November, we'd raised 45 million. Now, we thought we could raise 70, and your owner friend was not so happy. And so we went out to another 30 or 40 financial institutions, and we ended up with multiple term sheets between 70 and 90 million, which now he's a very happy guy. But we're really good at that. And then if you like the capital raise, then you engage the other parties. There's an ESOP trustee, their own valuation firm. There's legal counsel on both sides, and then we proceed to close. The whole thing takes 4 to 6 months. We did an average last year. We did 30 deals. It took us 7 months on average.
Yeah, and this got engineered, 0 tax on this deal.
Yeah, this
was a special
This
case.
is a special
It's
case, which I won't get
zero.
into the details,
Yeah.
but basically he keeps 99% of every dollar, and he can reinvest it however he wants. But that's a unique case.
It's a nice exit, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and also,
It's
you know, he's got a few thousand employees.
Yeah.
And it's going to create, you know, by the time they're 10 years in, they'll have about four years of annual income in their 401k. I'm sorry, it's not a 401k. It's in their ESOP trust. Every year you get an annual statement. Here's how many shares you're allocated. Here's how many shares you're vested. Here's the value per share. And then when the employee hits retirement milestones, they get to sell the shares back. So if they're in the plan 10 years and they're 55, they get to sell 25% of their shares at 60 some more, put it into an IRA 401k. And then if the company sells, though, along that food chain, they just get all the money into their IRA or 401k.
So great. So if you're interested in selling your company, or you feel like it's on the horizon, or you know somebody that's selling their company, talk to Rich.
Yeah, and the value for all of you guys is you'll see in our book. You book a session if you've got a business and you want my insights. I've been a consultant. I built and sold multiple businesses, and CPA for 40-something years. Unfortunately, that's I'm getting old now. And I'll share my insights. Love to share my insights. I'll give you a little time, and whether or not it makes sense, anything that we do for you. But we also have some things about people who need to do any business. What you'd be thinking about in
How
advance
to prep.
to get ready to sell later
sure.
on. We have lots of free data.
Beautiful. Thanks, Rich. Give him a
Thank
round.
you.
Yep. Thanks, amigo. Appreciate you, buddy. Cool.